There are no real problems in North America. There are only real problems in other countries, right? Third world countries. In Canada, we play hockey, drink our Tims, say please, thank you, and I'm sorry, and everyone has clean drinking water. That's how it is, right? As First Nation Native people of North America, we often feel misunderstood. Many times we hear things like, get over your past, move on, and there are no real problems in Canada or USA like other countries. Much of the world doesn't realize we have third world living conditions here. Gwe, nindalozi savi, dleowi Elsipogtog, paznawigi det jabuktuk, abjalasi migmagi. Hi, I'm Savvy from Elsipogtog First Nation in New Brunswick. I live here in Halifax. I'm from the Wolf Clan. Welcome to Mi'kma'ki territory. I am the daughter of Heather Heidi Simon, Mi'kmaq, and Marty Port, Anishinaabe. When I say it means that they've passed on. Granddaughter to Sarah Simon, Midada, William John Simon, Sarge Port, and Linda Lucier. I am the sister of Samson, Talon, Echo, and Quana. I am the partner to Alex Tomer, mother of Wasadeg, and our second baby in the womb. I have to let you know that this was the hardest speech I've ever prepared for. I've cried many times while writing this, sobbed. I'm an empath and I care deeply. I cry for the pain that has happened, that is still happening to my relations today. I also have cried tears of joy for what we continue to overcome, the thousands of years of strength and resilience we've had to demonstrate in the last 400 years when we welcomed new people here on our land, and how we are still here. I want to invite you to come on this journey with us as I share our perspective. It's a story of my family, friends, our community. This isn't to place blame, and I want to ask you to not to carry anything negative from your ancestors as you listen. Our daily challenges include lack of clean drinking water. There are over 100 communities in Canada that are without safe, clean drinking water, and recently, mercury is being put in it due to the pipelines and fracking. Community members have to buy plastic bottles of water, which they don't always have access to. Many of these communities are remote, isolated, and fly-in only. Housing issue. Lots of mold in the houses and no resources to get them fixed. Lack of housing for community members, which was a part of our treaty agreements with the Crown. Many houses up north, in Northern Ontario, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, all over are in horrible living conditions. Young children and elders are the most affected, gaining long-term illnesses because of the air that they breathe. First Nation people have the highest rates of homelessness than any other group in Canada. Human trafficking. Stats Can shares that 52% of all human trafficking cases in Canada involve Indigenous women and girls. 52%. Nova Scotia has the highest rate of sex trafficking First Nations in Canada. Racism, especially within the healthcare system. Last fall, 100 First Nation women in Saskatchewan came forward to report that they had been forcibly sterilized, and many were coerced into tubal ligations, or being stalked and hovered over at a shopping store by staff and having to ask the worker to give me some personal space while I shop. Indian residential school, where thousands of First Nation children were collected from government agents, institutionalized in Christian schools, and endured many forms of abuse. They were each given a number, not a name. My grandmother, Mi'kaju Sarah Simon, was one of them. She was number 41. When she was a child, she was playing outside with her brother, and they were collected by the RCMP on the orders of Indian Affairs. They were driven to where her father was, locked in the police car, not allowed to speak to their father, and he was not allowed to speak to them. The RCMP only let their dad know that they're being picked up and taken to a train station where they'll be shipped off to Indian residential school. The mission of these schools was, in quotes, to kill the Indian, save the man. By assimilating them It was run by priests and nuns, where the children's long hair was cut off and their skin was scrubbed with toxic chemicals. They were not allowed to be Native anymore, and if they tried, they were harshly disciplined. Over 150 years, Canada saw nearly 150 schools with 150,000 First Nation students. At least 6,000 of them died in these schools. They are still finding mass graves of children to this day. The last school closed in only 1996. The 60 Scoop, where 20,000 First Nation children were taken from their families, placed into foster care, adoption, ripped away from their identity. Many are still crawling back to their Native roots and trying to find themselves as adults or elderly. Loss of language. Effects of Indian residential school where Native children were beaten when spoken their native language. Effects of oppression, lateral violence within our tribes. Loss of identity, not feeling Native enough. A concern of coming across as an angry Native to non-Natives when sharing our challenges and not being taken seriously. Genocide. Prior to Columbus, we had over 600 million Indigenous people, down to 7 million, according to US Census, the largest Holocaust in the history of the world. Indigenous people have the highest incarceration rates in USA. One Native man from Northern Ontario was recently in solitary confinement for 4 years. United Nations has ruled that solitary confinement over 15 days constitutes cruel and unusual punishment. Missing and murdered Indigenous women and men. Did you know First Nation women are 10 times more likely to go missing and 4 times more likely to be sexually assaulted compared to the national average? 56% of Native American women will be a victim of sexual violence. Today, in 2019, there are approximately 1,200 missing or murdered First Nation people in Canada. That's a scary statistic that we live with. We've lost many loved ones to alcohol, drugs, and suicide. These were not our traditional ways, but have become a way of coping with colonization and oppression. Police brutality. Anytime we as Native people come together to protect our land or water in a peaceful gathering with songs and prayers, you want to know what happens? We get shot at by snipers, pepper sprayed. I've seen this and experienced this in Elsipogtog, New Brunswick, Rexton, while standing with my community to protect the water from SWN and fracking, the water that my Miigaju, my grandmother, drinks. Many got arrested and get wrongfully put into jail. A woman I went to high school with got arrested there as her legs had fallen asleep while sitting down praying, and she simply could not physically get up as her legs were numb. They were demanding her to. She wasn't trying to be disobedient. Her legs went numb and she got sent to jail for praying. This is not all that we face on the daily. This is to give an idea of the relevant truths that we experience on a daily basis. This is not a pain competition. This isn't about who has it worse. All of our challenges are valuable. When I hear people say, "I didn't know," it hits me that our history was never truly taught in the history books. Our resilience wasn't taught, where they tried to assimilate us, that history was never included. People pretended it never happened, and some still do. There are major gaps in the Canadian history. I want people to be aware and to not pretend that these conditions do not exist. This is what we don't see on the news and the media. There are a lot of issues that are so real and so relevant that are happening today in Canada and USA, not just in the past, today. To my Native brothers and sisters, keep making space for healing and don't cut that short. Want to really be a warrior? Want to really decolonize? Return to your roots. Make space to mend your broken hoop. Own Louisi, speak your native language. You will only be stronger for you, the children, your community, and our people. Amsid Nogama, all our relations. To non-Native people, want to help but don't know where to begin? Walalin, thank you for even caring. The good news is, these are not Native issues. These are Canadian and American issues, which means it includes you. You can make a difference. You get to be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Ignorance is a real problem. So how can you make a difference being non-Native? Educate yourself on First Nation culture. Visit our events, powwows, gatherings. Experience it. Visit a First Nation community so you can speak from experience, not assumption or judgment. Get in touch with First Nations in your area. Speak up when you see injustices. Learn our languages. Speak the native language of the land that you're in. When we visit a tourist place, do we not learn key phrases while we're there? Acknowledge the First Nation territory you're on. Be understanding and open-minded of our traditional ways. Share what you learn with your children, your grandchildren, your parents, co-workers. Listen. Jiksidui. Support Native businesses. Honor the First Nation status cards in your stores. Help search for the missing people, Indigenous people in your area. Be mindful of your approach when asking questions. We are not all Native history teachers. Be honest when you want to learn and say something like, I don't know a lot, but I want to learn more and support, or how can I help? Donate to any of these causes. Search up the TRC recommendations, Truth and Reconciliation Commission, on Google, and it's the first link. You'll have a 20-page PDF document. This has been compiled from lots of Indigenous people all over the world, and it's a way for you to take part. I'm just giving you tidbits. This is a way on a larger scale of the things, the solutions that we can do together to make it all better and peaceful. Make friends with Natives. We're a fun-loving bunch, and you will end up making lifelong friendships. There is so much that can be done. Together, we can have allies and not agree on everything. We're all human beings. We all bleed red. We're not born racist. That happens with influence. My call to action to you is, do you want to be a part of the solution? I'm inviting you. Pick one from the list and share your talents, strengths, your brains, your heart. To all of my Indigenous brothers and sisters, I want to remind you that your walk is super important. Your purpose matters. You were created for a reason. Your journey is your journey. Embrace that, heal, and take the time to forgive. An elder friend of mine, Emmett Peterzo, was an Indian residential school survivor. He was battling cancer. He shared a teaching with me that I want to share with you. To work on forgiveness of self and of others before it's too late. Don't carry the anger and the hate. It'll eat you up. We all miss him dearly. Let's continue to strive to be our best selves while connecting with like-minded, strong individuals, Native or non-Native. People who want to come together as allies, as friends, to make positive change in this world. You have a beautiful mission on this earth, not just as an Indigenous person, as a human being. That pain you're feeling matters. It's so real. But let's not let it win. If you're struggling with feeling like you're not where you want to be in life, I want to encourage you to book a healing appointment for yourself. No negotiations. Whether it's talking to a therapist, visiting an elder, being with your natural medicines, ceremonies, hanging with someone who makes you laugh, book that in and don't settle for less when it comes to your healing. You're so worth it. If you're First Nation, Inuit, Métis, and you're waking up, living your life, walking your purpose, give yourself a pat on the back, celebrate you, you're doing awesome. There's so much we each face on a daily basis, so many traumas that we've been born into that have become a part of our DNA. I know there are many times we don't feel awesome, and we get stuck in the dark. I feel you. I'm with you. I want to remind you of our ancestors who have walked before us, who have paved the way. Our grandparents, our parents, our mentors. Don't get lost in the comparison trap, especially to non-Native people. It will never add up. We are living in an exciting time where there are so many of our First Nation brothers and sisters breaking barriers and breaking records, reaching the top in all ways. all across Turtle Island. We've got res famous natives to celebrate, world-known Indigenous people to honor and learn from. Many are dancing, chanting, doing ceremony, learning their languages, and getting educated like never before. We've got a lot to be grateful for within our beautiful culture. We've got to keep lifting each other up and recognize that Nisk, we are incredible. We face so much on the daily, yet we still rise. Walalio agezalalo, I thank you all and I love you all.